phone line on both of them right now. Hi, this is Kelly with Gia's Italian Kitchen. We are live. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to make a delicious variation of a very classic dish, the Caprese salad. We are going to make a Caprese pasta salad, but we're going to make homemade pesto as well and turn that into the vinaigrette and do a pesto vinaigrette on this. So it's going to be delish. So thanks again for joining. We are live in our YouTube channel and in our Facebook site. And I have friends here off camera that are monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, that is it's so awesome because that's kind of what I'm all about. I'm interactive and I want you guys to participate. I want you hopefully are making this along with me and you get your questions answered real time. So if you post something in the chat or the comments, they'll shout those out so that we can then shout them out to you. And hopefully many others have the same question that you have, right? So we are going to get started and hopefully you should have dinner here in less than an hour. So I haven't prepped anything. I just have everything laid out, hopefully just like you have, which is also kind of how I operate. I don't prep ahead of time. I want to be different than a TV show. So I have my kale, which you can see, I kind of look like I'm in a jungle here. I've got the kale and my basil and then all the other ingredients. So for starters, we're going to do a couple things. I want you to turn your oven to 350 because we're going to roast our pine nuts for the pesto. And then I have a medium-sized saucepan filled about halfway, so probably not quite 2 quarts of water. Let's get that going on high, and that'll be for the pasta. So I'm going to turn this on. And we will salt the water. I like to salt it after it's warmed up because then I think the salt gets a little easier to get incorporated. So, and then let's hit the oven at 350. Okay, so that should take a few minutes. So for the pine nuts, I just have a regular cookie sheet with sides so that your nuts don't fall off. And I'm going to flip over here. There, so our YouTube folks can see the whole screen. Oh, okay.
So
that's okay. Yeah.
you just turned on the oven.
Ah, okay.
Oh, it flipped. Yes.
Okay, good. So since we're not putting anything on the nuts, you don't need to put anything down. A lot of times I like to put a piece of parchment paper down on here, but you don't need to do that. I'm just going to throw these right on there. So I'm going to add a little more than what's in the recipe because I'm going to make a lot of pesto. Tonight we're just going to do the one batch. But since I'm making a mess with the pesto and my Cuisinart, I'm going to make a little more tonight after you guys are eating. So I'm dumping 3 packs of these. My packs are 2 ounces each. When we start to make the pesto, shake that so they're all single layer. When we make the pesto, we're going to use like 3 tablespoons-ish in heaping tablespoons in the Cuisinart. So that should give me at least 2 batches. So heaping tablespoon. You can either grab a measuring spoon or cereal spoon, soup spoon, teaspoon, tablespoon. So grab whatever you'd like there. All right. So what I wanted to show you, this is so cool. Can you guys see this? The basil. So we are coming to the end of, kind of herb season. We're in the Midwest, so it depends on where you are. But these are my basil plants. Flip back over here. And I've cut them down because I've made pesto several weeks ago. And so I brought this in as well. So this is like the actual whole plant, but it is completely regenerated. And these leaves are even more beautiful than these on my original plant. So I just wanted to bring this in and show you because if you are cutting from your garden, if you don't cut all the way down, your plant is going to regenerate until, of course, it starts to freeze and then it's going to die. But throughout the season, you can do that and maintain your plant. So that's awesome, because if you find a plant from the grocery store and it looks like super dead, or your nursery, plant it anyway. They're pretty resilient in the summer. So the basil. So I have harvested a bunch already for my batch. Now I'm using, let me put this in. I think this is a 12 or 13 cup Cuisinart. You can use a blender or a Ninja, but the best because it has a larger blade. Your blender has a shorter blade, and so it doesn't do as well. So if you do have food processor, that's going to be better. So what I kind of gauge this as is like 3 heaping handfuls of basil leaves for one of these batches. So if you haven't harvested your basil already, do that now, and then I'm going to take these off of here. So even though these are like super cute and super beautiful, I'm going to harvest these because I know these are not going to make it since I cut the whole thing off out of my garden.
It smells delicious.
Doesn't it smell amazing? Yum. So if you get overflowed with basil, the other thing that you could do is Cuisinart, like if you have a little one or you can one, and just put some olive oil in this and throw it in a bell jar and put it in the freezer. If you have like a ton of basil and you've already made a ton of pesto, just so that you can save the basil. Because in the Midwest, I have 2 different little gardens. One for the stuff that does come back and one for the stuff that doesn't. So basil is one that is not going to come back if you live in the Midwest. It's going to die when it freezes. So you'll have to replant that every year. So the basil, and then the other 2 plants that I have out there are parsley, Italian parsley, and rosemary. Those also won't make it through the winter, but you can harvest those and make, like some rosemary olive oil or some rosemary butter by bringing it inside, chopping it up, and then just throw it in the freezer or throw it in the fridge. It'll keep in the freezer. It'll keep for months. But then you've got that fresh, and the parsley. For that, I get it wet, and then I roll it in paper towels, throw it in a Ziploc, put it in the freezer, and then that's awesome. Because usually you're going to put that like in a soup or a sauce, and it doesn't matter that it's all wilty, but you've got fresh parsley into the winter. Okay, so I'm just taking all the leaves, trying to not get all the stems. But if you do, it's not a big deal. Okay, yeah, that's about good. And in case you don't know, at the top of these little flowers, some are green, you might see some white ones. You do not want these at all in your pesto. This is the bitter part of the plant, and throughout the season, you'd want to cut all these off because, okay, let me put this aside. Let's see. Okay, not quite on there. So next thing we're going to do is let's get our kale going. So this, I grabbed these 2. I'm going to put this in the camera because they're so crazy. My kale plant is literally like taller than me. And I've cut it with these leaves are just ginormous. I've cut this probably 5 times this summer, and it just keeps coming back and back, and it's huge. It's awesome. So today I'm going to use kale instead of arugula, which is what I normally put in this salad, but you can use whatever you want. And if you don't like either of those, you can use spring greens or romaine lettuce. But since we're putting the vinaigrette on there, it's a nice little trick to maybe get your kids to eat some greens, because there'll be a vinaigrette on there, and they might notice. Depends on how picky your kids are, but this will hopefully help them eat it. So I've already taken them off the big stalks, so I just have the leaves. But since I'm using kale, I do want to, we'll go like this to get those off. Yes, and you can eat these; they're totally fine. They're crunchy. Some people like them, some don't. So if you want to take those off, you can. But we want to put a little bit of olive oil and sea salt on this now, while we're doing the rest of our stuff because it's going to actually help soften the kale. If I was doing arugula, I would not need to do that, but the kale, it's a little bitter. It's awesome, and it's very nutritious. But you do want to try to soften it before we eat. So that's why I'm doing that now. Okay, so let's, look at that. Isn't that crazy? Huge. So you can use as little or as much as you like. I love this, and it's a good way, like I said, to eat. So I'm adding several leaves to this. I'm gonna just cut these. Let me flip over here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to cut these into basically just bite-sized pieces. There's no really magic to the size here. You just want to get them so that they'll fit on your fork, right, into a bite and not overwhelm your bite. Okay, and then I'm going to just cut this in half once to get them a little bit smaller. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to put these in actually this big bowl that I'm going to use to serve the salad in, because we're going to put that olive oil and sea salt right in here, and it'll just add right in. It's not something we're going to remove or anything from the kale. So let me get some olive oil. And some salt. And maybe just like 1 tablespoon. Because we're going to have olive oil in our pesto, so that's going to be a lot of the liquid for the dressing, as well as make the vinaigrette, so we don't need too much in here. And then just a little bit of salt to kind of help that bitter flavor come out. And then I'm just going to toss this. And if you want, you can do this with your hands, or you can just kind of. Can you see the top now? Cool. Okay. So this is for you Facebookers. This is what it looks like. I'm just getting this a little bit wet. It's just going to hang out here, and then I'm going to set it aside till the end. Cool. Okay. My oven is ready, so I'm going to put these pine nuts in, and we're going to do it for about 5 minutes to just get them lightly toasted. So if you have a timer, I would definitely put a timer on because they're going to burn quickly if you forget about them. Okay, let's check on our water. Oh, water's done too. Okay, so put some salt in there. So about a teaspoon of water for a little 2-quart. And then just give that a little stir so that it gets incorporated in there. And I'm going to turn this to like a medium and add my pasta. So I'm using an orzo pasta tonight, just because they're so cute and little. It's the shape that looks like rice, but it's pasta. But there's so many amazing flavors in this dish. I like to use a big pasta or a little pasta instead of a big one, because I really want to get bites of the flavors. I don't want to just like eat chunks of pasta. So I like using this little one. So this is 16 ounces, 1 pound. I'm just going to put the whole box in there. This is a great dish that's going to keep fresh in your fridge for days, so that you'll have this for lunch or dinner later this week. So I would just put the whole box in. And since these are really little, normally if you were cooking like a penne or a rigatoni or a spaghetti or fettuccine, somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes for the cook time, but these are so tiny, probably only going to cook for like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and then we're going to test it and see what we think. But they should be pretty close to done by then. Okay, so, and if you'd like a wine pairing, Chianti Reserve is always on the docket here, but if you would like a white, you could do like a Vermentino or a Sauv Blanc. Would be a beautiful pairing or a Cab if you're a red and you don't have the for your dinner tonight. So let me grab a sip. Yum. All right, so if you did not email me, you can do that, Kelly, Kelley, at giasitaliankitchen.biz, B-I-Z, and we will email you the class packet, which has the grocery list, the recipes, and kind of the cooking guide of how we're multitasking here and toggling back and forth so that dinner is done at the end and everything comes together at one time. So if you don't have the packet, shoot us an email and we'll get that over to you. All right, so let's start the pesto. So I put everything but the basil in so that everything gets mixed up really well. Then I put the basil in at the end. I think it matters. You know, if you don't want to do it that way, that's fine. But I think it definitely gets mixed up better if you do it that way. So let's grab our ingredients. So we need olive oil, salt. And actually, I'm going to give the pasta a quick stir here. And we've got a little less than 2 minutes on those nuts already. So grab a hotbed. All right. So we need olive oil, salt. We've got our lemons, which the lemons and black pepper is kind of my twist on a classic basil pesto. So if you want to try this recipe, grab lemon and black pepper as well. Then, what else do we need? Well, the pine nuts, of course. Oh, the cheese. The cheese, I forgot the cheese. I always forget the cheese. Uh-oh. Not bro. You know what? If you could, oh, there. Thanks. Okay. It was hiding. So if you are in the Midwest, this is the ginormous 5-pound bag of Pecorino Romano from Graziano's. There's a Graziano's in Chicago. There's probably more than one. Where we're from, and then in Iowa, where we are now, there's one Graziano's in Des Moines. So they are the Italian market. That's amazing, amazing, amazing. I'll come back to that. Here, the pine nuts. Oh yeah. Okay. So they are lightly browned. You can see those lightly toasted. So that's perfect. None of them burnt. So I'm just going to set them aside because we want them to cool. And then let's do maybe 3 more minutes of a timer for the pasta. Okay, so cheese. We don't need 5 pounds, but I use a lot of cheese. I put it in my sauce, I put it in soups, pesto, so I love the 5-pound bag. But I use Pecorino Romano mainly because that's what my grandma used to always cook with. You can use Parmesan, but you really, in my opinion, you need to find a good one. You need to find the Parmigiano Reggiano, which is the good stuff that is going to actually taste like authentic Italian cheese, and it's not going to taste like wax. The Pecorino is, if you find it that says Pecorino Romano, it's a little saltier, it's a little bit easier on your digestion, and it's more authentic to that mid-northern region of Italy, in the Tuscany region, which is where my grandparents were from. So that's what I'm using. Okay, so let's start with the garlic. That was the other one. Oh, goodness. All right. So my other trick, if you've watched me before, you know this. This is my garlic. So I take a big bag. You can get this at your grocery store or like those big box stores, Sam Costco, or whatever's nearby you. And they have these bags of pre-shucked garlic. So you can, instead of buying them in the bowl and then you have to shuck the skin off, which is a pain in the booty. So I buy the big bag, put it in my Cuisinart, and then I put them in these bell jars. You fill it with olive oil, just enough to cover it, and then you throw it in the freezer, and it's in there for 3-4 months, and then you have fresh garlic, whether you're making a stir or a soup or sauce or pesto. Like, the hard work is done. So if you don't have this, if you haven't watched me before, grab some garlic, and we're going to do about 5 cloves. So you're going to want to shuck those. Let's see, something like one of these. There's so many gadgets out there, but if you have one of these little gadgets where you, put the garlic on there and roll it around, you can't see me there, it really helps to take the skin off. If you don't have one of those, you can just take the back side of your knife with your palm of your hand and just smack it on your cutting board. That will also free up the shell or the skin. Okay, so 5 to 7 cloves. Whoop. Okay, let's test. So that was the timer for the pasta, so let's test. Yeah, this might be done. So I don't know if you can really see it, but they look kind of soft. Yeah, done. Okay. So I'm going to turn that off, strain these off. Do not rinse, just strain. And then I'm going to give my strainer a little shake. And then I'm going to put it back in the pot so that it doesn't sit here and stick to my strainer and harden up. So make sure you got most of the water out of your pan. And then what I'm going to do is actually add about 1 tablespoon of olive oil into here. Just a little bit. Stir it up so that it doesn't stick. And then this can sit over here and cook the rest of our stuff. So I'm going to put it back here off the heat. Cool. Okay. Pesto. So our olive oil. So I'm going to stick some garlic in there. So back to the garlic. So a heaping tablespoon is going to be 4 to 5 cloves-ish. If you like garlic, just take a few tablespoons of this, or you can stick to that 5 to 7 cloves. If they're really small cloves, I would add a few more. Be able to taste it, but not get overwhelmed, right? Okay, so let's flip this over so you guys can see my Cuisinart. There we go. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to set the cheese, and we're going to do. Let me get a different spoon. About 4 tablespoons of your pecorino or your in. 3 and 4. Okay, then I am going to add a little bit of salt, but I'm not going to add too much salt because the cheese does have, it has that salty flavor to it, so you don't need too much salt. But I'm going to add a little bit, and then we will use this as something to play with it. That always might be the case, right? So, okay, so a little black pepper. So back on the garlic, if you did have the whole garlic, you don't need to chop anything up. The Cuisinart is going to do that for you. This is not coming out very well. Maybe I need new batteries. These are so cool. If you've ever seen these, and there's like a little flashlight on there, but it doesn't want to do. That's okay. We got a little pepper in there. Okay, lemon. So if you have a lemon juicer, you will want to push it down to release. Try to squeeze it Watch your fingers. If you don't have one of these, you can of course just do this, but I would kind of squeeze it in your hand or squeeze it in a little cereal bowl so that if you have any seeds, you don't get the seeds, right? So we don't want the seeds in there. Okay, let's flip back. Okay, so there's a half. And we'll do the other half. And then I have lots of lemons here, mainly because I'm making pesto, but also I love the flavor of the lemon in this pesto, so play with that flavor. So when we get done testing it, maybe I need to add a little more of one of these. Okay, so let's put the top on, and then let's mix it up. And then we'll add the pine nuts. I think we got everything. Do we have everything? Pine nuts, cheese, garlic, salt, olive oil, pepper, lemon juice, yeah. So we'll do this and we'll add our nuts. Okay. Oh gosh.
How about lemon?
Woo! Yum! Okay. Okay, nuts are pretty much cooled off. So let's add, let's see. Okay, that's not gonna work,
Yeah.
isn't it? Different spoon, please. Okay, no holes. Nuts. And if you don't toast these, that's okay. You can, it's fine. But the flavor of them being toasted, once we taste the pesto, it's delicious. You can really taste. Okay, let's give this a pulse. Okay, I'm gonna get a little spatula, just so that we can scrape the sides in here, especially after we add the basil, so that nothing is kind of hanging out there on its own. Woo! Oh my gosh, so delicious. Okay, time for the basil. So like I said, 3 big handfuls, kind of 3 cups of the loose leaves. If you've got this large Cuisinart, it's basically we're filling it up without packing it down. So add them loosely and gently, but filling it up. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. Maybe another tablespoon. There it goes. Awesome. Okay, let me scrape. Caprese pasta salad is in Gia's Italian Kitchen, G-I-A, giasitaliankitchen.biz. You can go to the shop, or it might pop up on you when you get to the homepage so that you can check out the table of contents. There's 21 easy recipes, low-cost ingredients, easy to make, kind of intended for, hey, you're going back to college and maybe you're in your first apartment, or you are just graduating and you're moving into your first apartment and you don't have help. So check that out and put some comments in there if you purchased the cookbook already. Super, super excited. So this recipe that we're making tonight is one of the recipes that's in that cookbook. So let's give this another pulse for the pesto. And pulse. And then taste. And we'll see if we need to add.
It's amazing.
It's good. Okay, so when I made this for a group a few weeks ago, we did a taste test. I bought a little jar, like a good jar, from our grocery store. And then we tasted this. Like, It was 100% unanimous. I don't know how many people were there, like 25 people. It was unanimous. This makes a difference. This is better. Doing it homemade will knock your socks off, knock the socks off of your family. So much better than the store-bought that's, been sitting on the shelf for a while. So this batch that we made, what we're gonna do with it now, because I don't think we need to add anything, do you? I think it's awesome. You can taste the lemon, you can taste a little bit of the garlic, obviously you can taste the basil, and you can taste that toasty, nutty of the pine nuts. It's so delicious. But we're gonna make a vinaigrette. So this is why I called it the colorful Caprese salad. It's a salad. Because we're gonna make a vinaigrette with the pesto. So more bell jars. I love these bell jars. So you can use these big ones. I also have these smaller ones. So if you just find these, you can find these like at your, probably not the big box store, maybe, but your grocery store, Target, Walmart, like they all have these. They're awesome for storing the garlic, but also your pesto in the fridge or in the freezer. So right now we're gonna make the vinaigrette. So I'm gonna take 2 heaping tablespoons of the pesto and put it in my jar. And if you don't have the bell jar, you can do this in, in a bowl and whisk it. I'll tell you why I like doing it better in the jar versus in a bowl and whisking it. So I'm going to add a little bit of balsamic. Cool. Okay. Didn't think I had enough there, but I did. A little bit of white wine vinegar, or if you can find balsamic vinegar, that's cool too. Then olive oil. So usually when I'm making a vinaigrette, the ratio is about 2 to 1 of olive oil to the vinegar. But it's not going to look exactly that way today because we've got the pesto, which has the olive oil and a lot of other flavors in there. So this is almost going to look like a third to a third to a third. All right. So I'm going to put my top on here, or really, and if you have any sort of jar, like a leftover jelly jar with a top.
Are you adding more lemon juice?
I'm gonna taste it and then maybe, yeah. So sometimes, yes, I add lemon juice into here as well. I tasted a lot of lemon juice when we made the pesto, so I want to taste this first and see what we think, and then we could add more lemon juice to the vinaigrette. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a vigorous shake. Which almost whips the olive oil and makes it creamy. That's why I like doing it in a jar versus the whisking. So we're gonna let this just hang out then for a little bit over there. And, oh wait, no, taste, let's taste. Taste, taste, taste. Oh, that looks so good. There you go. It's done. It's done. Yum. Oh, it's so good. Okay, now we're gonna let it hang out over here. So let's prepare the rest of the salad, which we have our kale over there already. We're gonna take a red onion. If you don't like red onions, you can use a yellow onion, or you can not. It's up to you. I like the flavor of a raw red onion, so I love adding this into a salad, really any salad. But I'm only going to use probably about half of this because this one's kind of big. And if you want to use a little or more, it's up to you, that's fine. Or if your kids don't like red onions, just leave them out, it's fine. And then these as small as I can. Now, if you have a mandolin, you could actually use a mandolin, but I didn't pull that out today because I don't know if everyone has a mandolin. They're super cool for slicing your vegetables really thin, but it doesn't dice them. It usually slices them into like the half moon is what you're going to get from the mandolin. So they're cool, but not exactly what I wanted for today. So we're just going to use the knife. So you want a really sharp knife. Get them as thin as you can, and watch your fingers. And then we'll just add this right into that big bowl with the kale, because we're ready to pull this together. Okay, and then just dice. And turn and watch your fingers. And if you can do that, whiz-bang trick with the onion like they do on the TV, go for it. It's kind of hard to show on camera, so that's why normally I cut like this on camera, because you get to the same result. It doesn't really matter. Okay, let's grab our bowl and add in the onion. I'm just going to add this whole pile, which is half of my large red onion. Rinse my hands off a little bit. Okay, we still need that big knife, so let's mix this up a little bit. Look at that. Oh, it's so pretty already. You got the purple and the green. Can you see it? Okay. And then we'll put that aside. So next, the tomatoes. So if you have this contraption, this is the coolest contraption. That if you have a specialty kitchen store in your area, they probably have this. This is literally what it looks like. And when I first saw it, I didn't even know what the heck it was. But when you open it up, it's got all these ridges. Can you see those ridges? Let me show you here. All those ridges. So we're going to put all the tomatoes in here. And you could do this. This is like seriously the coolest contraption. You could put chicken breasts in here or pork chops. And okay, so my helpers off to the side are looking at me like I'm losing my marbles, but hang on. Oh, hang on.
So take off the stems.
Yeah, so I took off the stems, the little green. Yeah, so if you still have those on your tomatoes, take those off. If you bought them, they should not have them on it, probably. If you bought the little grape or cherry tomatoes. Mine are out of the garden, so I still have the green stems. Okay, then you gently put the top on and push down just a tiny, tiny bit. And then, sharp knife, going back and forth, back and forth. And let me grab our bowl here. And look at that. They all cut in half. I know, right? I know. It's crazy. How did it do that? And it didn't squish them? It's so cool. Okay, so I'm just dumping all these in. So I'm going to do this one more time because I love all these tomatoes. So if you do have a garden and you are flooded with tomatoes right now, like all these other vegetables and herbs, and make sauce with them later. You don't have to do anything with them now, but don't let them die in your garden because they're fresh vegetables and there's nothing like fresh, right? Fresh and out of your own backyard or front yard. So get them out of the plant before you have a deep freeze or before they all fall off and die, and put them in the freezer. Okay, let's put the top back on that. You guys see? Let's flip back over. And oops, this way. Gently push down. Watch your fingers. You want one, don't you?
I do.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Thank you. And there's our halves, all of our little halves. You see that? I know, you don't believe me, do you? It's so cool. Okay, dumping those in. If you want to add more, you can. I think in the recipe I put, one of those pints from your store. You saw my bowl out of the garden. Maybe, 2 cups of tomatoes. If you really love those tomatoes, just, put however much you want. Okay, let's give this a little toss, and then let's get our pasta. Okay, so we're going to add this in there. I'm going to add the whole pound because once we get that vinaigrette in there, then we can keep it for tomorrow. So it's still a little hot. That's okay. Not a big deal. It's actually going to help wilt the kale, so that's totally fine. I think, is that everything?
Cheese.
Oh, how could we forget these? Okay. I mozzarella in a variety of different shapes. You could do shredded, it doesn't really matter. Or these mozzarella tubes that come and they're pre-sliced. They're called pearls. And they're the little balls. And they're awesome. Okay, let me shove this out of the way. Open this up. Because they're in perfect bite-sized pieces already. So they're perfect for this salad. Or for making a caprese, where you take your cute little leaf, you put a little pearl on there, a little half tomato that you just cut, drizzle some olive oil and vinegar and sea salt. It's the best. But these pearls are multi. And if you want, this is a double. How many ounces is this? This is a 16 ounce. In the recipe, I put the half ounce, or the half tube, which is an 8 ounce, I think. You can add this whole thing if you want. My kids love having the cheese in there. Pound of pasta. And then break it up. All right, let me show you once these are kind of broken up. See how they're these perfect little bite size, actually that's 2 of them, perfect little bite size balls. So you can use your hand, actually that's pretty easy. And just break them up. Okay, let me rinse here. Get a plate, because we are almost ready to eat. Okay, so I'm going to take my vinaigrette and shake this up again, get everything mixed back in, and just dump that whole thing in there. Oh yeah, we got lots going on in here. Give it a mix. Oh, delish. Okay, let's plate this. And you guys are ready for dinner. Now what you could do is roast some chicken breast or some salmon or steak, whatever, if you wanted to add some protein, and you could lay it over the top of this. That would also be a nice add to the dinner. Let me get a fork. And there you have it. Caprese, colorful caprese pasta salad with a homemade pesto vinaigrette. Let me give this a taste. It's so good. I hope you love it. Thanks so much for joining Kelly with G's Italian Kitchen. Please check out our website, jesusitaliankitchen.biz. And if you're on Facebook, check out YouTube. If you're on Facebook and Instagram, we're everywhere. There's recipes in a lot of our videos on our YouTube channel. Just click into the description. There's a ton of recipes on our website. There's a little, if you go to those 3 little lines, the recipes. There's a ton of recipes with beautiful pictures and lots of other good stuff. So please check it out. Like us, comment, subscribe, share, help us grow. Kelly with Gia's Italian Kitchen. Thanks so much for joining. Good night.
Mm.